Anyway, I messed up the stage. What's up, yo? What's up? All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Cast the Craze podcast. I am your host with the most and the crazy man, Vera. So, again, tonight I am flying the ship solo. George won't be with me tonight, but I'll have a special guest, Elliot Mondry, on tonight. And we're going to be talking about his children's book and his career and journey and a whole bunch of stuff, plus some updates on what's going on with Doodie and a whole lot of stuff. So without further ado, let's get it.
We are the only show for independents all around, giving you a platform to spread your word all over town. Cast the Craze is the place to promote to your fans with the dream of Medina and Sam the Crazy Man. Subscribe to our show and never miss an episode. It's time to get your mans, listen to us on the go. Updated every week, we never miss a day. Join the squad, come on in. It's time to catch the craze. If you are an independent, catch the craze. Making moves on your own, catch the craze. On your grind in the streets, catch the craze. Join the movement, catch the craze.
Yeah, George, we did it again. Come on now. You know you want to do it. Catch the craze. Welcome to Catch the Craze podcast. I'm your host with the most, Sam, the crazy man, Vera. And tonight's another special episode. Thank you all for joining us. And we have, what's up, Lou in the house? What's up?
Yay!
And what's up, Alicia in the house?
Yay!
All right. So tonight we have a special guest. We got Elliot Mondry. I hope I pronounced his last name correctly. We generally tear up names, and it's kind of horrible. I know I'm guilty of it. Guilty as charged. Working on it. I should have used Google, right, to say how do you pronounce, but I didn't. So what's going on? So updates. So as you all know, we're getting ready to celebrate the 20th anniversary of There's an Alien in My Toilet. And it's pretty exciting. And you're probably asking me, what are you talking about, Sam? For those of you new to this, I am also not just the host of Catch the Case podcast, but I'm an independent publisher. I publish my own comic books. There's an Alien in My Toilet. I also have books like Forbidden and Catch the Crazies and Cosmic Wars and stuff like that, and a bunch of kids' books as well. But yeah, so April 5th is the 1-year anniversary for There's an Alien in My Toilet. And we're going to be partying on Kickstarter with the launch of book number 7. No boo for you. Catching ghosts is what we do. And and in this episode, I call it episode, Alan thinks he saw a ghost. And if you picked up issue number 6, you know it was Doodie walking across the house with a sheet over his head, right? So he thought he saw a ghost. Alan's son is determined to prove to his dad that it's not a ghost, there's an alien in the house. So you have one group trying to capture the alien, and you have Alan hiring a ghost busting organization called No Boo for You, Catching Ghosts of What We Do. So they're coming to the house in issue number 7, and they're gonna tear things up. And so Doodie has to survive them. He has to survive Agent Doe, who's getting closer to tracking Doodie down. He's got to evade the alien pirate organization that's coming down to Earth to track down Doodie, to hold him as ransom. They're called Nasty Piece of Work. So they're coming down for Doodie. Then you have General Goatee, who has to bring Doodie back home because his father, the Emperor, is like, where is my son? And so he's trying to find him. You have Herman the Chihuahua, who believes who Doodie's a talking jalapeno, and he wants Adam. There's all sorts of crazy stuff, and Doodie has to survive. And it's going to be such an amazing thing. Announcement here for everybody out there. In the Kickstarter, there's going to be 3 variant covers. And each cover, that issue, has a different ending. So there's an alternate ending. There's a reason why you not just want the variant cover, but each one of them has a different ending. So if you're a true diehard Doodie collector, you're going to want all 3 because each one is different from the other. The great thing is it all ties into the bigger picture of the story. So it all adds up, but there are 3 different endings. You definitely want to be part of that. I'm excited for that. And just to give you some insight into the Dudester himself, here's a little promo. And if I can find it, they might call it I got so many things going on in this thing. Where is it? Is this videos? There it is. No, there it is. Sorry. Gotta get my life together. Here it is. Boom.
All right, folks. Buckle up because things are about to get wild. Picture this, a quiet suburban home, the perfect setting for a cozy evening. Right? Wrong. Alan thinks he's got a ghost problem. But little does he know his house is ground zero for an intergalactic showdown. Alan calls in the ghost hunting pros from Nobu for you. These guys are legit, armed with EMF detectors and night vision goggles. But wait. Bobby, Alan's son, and his crew are on a mission of their own. They're convinced it's not a ghost, but an alien. And they might just be right. Enter Doodie, the green alien causing all the chaos. Now Doodie is not just any alien. He's on the run from nasty piece of work, a fleet of alien pirates entering Earth's orbit. They want Doodie back and they're not playing nice. Meanwhile, Agent Doe, our no-nonsense government agent specializing in extraterrestrials, is hot on Doodie's trail. At the same time, Herman the Chihuahua is losing his mind in his cage. This tiny dog is determined to catch the green visitor. Picture this. Herman barking his head off, Bobby and friends armed with makeshift gadgets, and ghost hunters stumbling through the dark. Oh, and let's not forget Agent Doe, methodically scanning the house with his high-tech equipment. Every corner of Alan's house is alive with mystery and excitement. The ghost hunters are convinced they've got a spectral situation on their hands. But Bobby's team is working every angle to prove it's an alien. Doodie is desperately trying to stay hidden, dodging both the human and extraterrestrial threats. And just when you think it couldn't get crazier, the alien pirates make their move. Will Alan's home survive the ultimate showdown? Will Bobby prove his alien theory? Will Herman finally get his moment of glory? Stay tuned to find out, if you enjoyed this wild tale.
Yeah, and so if you haven't signed up for the launch, there's the QR code right there. Sign up, scan it on your phone. Sign up. We launch April 5th. It's gonna be amazing. This is issue number 7, and it's and remember, this is a 10-part miniseries, so we're getting close to the final chapter of There's an Alien in My Toilet. But if you haven't done so already, scan it. I'd love for you to join the party. Let's see. Mind blown. Thank you. Yeah, so it's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited about this issue, and I've been working really hard on this series. Hey, what's up? Carrie in the house. Need to take trailer notes. Thank you. So on top of that, in the fall, we're releasing the first ever Art of Doodie book. It's a 200-page art book of Doodie, and in honor of the 20-year anniversary for Disney in My Toilet, 20 artists who submit your version, your rendition of Doodie will be featured in that book. And this book will be distributed in bookstores as well. And so you get yourself to be featured on it with your QR code, your web link, and your drawing of Doodie. So send in your best version of Doodie by April 5th. Because putting together a 200-page art book takes a lot of time. So I'm going to need all that stuff so I can format it and everything in the book, but it'll be launched in the fall. So you get to celebrate with me and Doodie at the same time. Now, conventions. What's going on for conventions? So we have some locked in and some not locked in. So next month, I will be in Oklahoma at the Texoma Comic-Con. So it's my second appearance there. I'm excited about that. It's going to be so much fun. So I'll be returning to Oklahoma. And then the month after, I will be at LitCon. And it's a one-day show, LitCon. And so here's the agenda for the year. So, and then in April, I'm waiting for the confirmation for WeebCon. It's my first anime show. So I'm just waiting for confirmation. They take forever. They drag their feet. StapleCon is not going to happen. So StapleCon, they opened up the applications at 11:45 p.m. Sunday night. At 11. So, and you only knew that the applications were open if you got an email. So I got the email. I filled out the application at 20 after 12. And I got confirmation. They took my money, everything. Then the next day I got an email saying, unfortunately, they sold out in 18 minutes. That I didn't make the cut. I was like, how? You took my money and I got a confirmation. And I said, how do you sell out in 18 minutes? And so the only way to get approved for StapleCon was you had to sign up for the newsletter in order to receive that email. So my question is, if you knew you had that many people who signed up, that was that much interest in it. Why didn't you anticipate that and have a bigger venue? Because from what I understand, it's the same location they've been using every year, so they've outgrown it, but they're not willing to use a bigger venue. And I just thought it was just a warped way of opening up the opportunity to sign up for it. So I won't be signing up for it last year. They wanted me to be put on a waiting list. I can't be put on a waiting list. I have too many shows I have to book in advance, hotels and travel, and there's no way I'm not. You're not going to call me last minute and say, "Hey, we're going to sign you up." So that's out of the question. In May, I have a book signing on Free Comic Book Day, and I'll be doing DreamHack in Dallas. So book signing. Why am I doing a book signing on Free Comic Book Day? Because Herman the Chihuahua has his own backstory being published by I got to get the publisher's name again. I'm not good at this stuff. It's a unique name, but it's being published and it's going to be distributed in Texas only in comic book stores on Free Comic Book Day. So there are 3 artists who have it's an anthology. So Herman has his, if you ever want to know what's Herman's backstory, Doodie's also in this backstory. Because you'll find out if you get the book. So that's an incentive for those of you who don't live in Texas. There's a lot of opportunity, but those of you who do live in Texas on Free Comic Book Day, you have a chance to get yourself a free trading card from me by picking up the book on Free Comic Book Day, taking a picture of you holding the book with my page open and tagging me is in the end of my toilet on Instagram, and showing up to any convention in the state of Texas, because I'll be doing about 12 shows this year, showing up in the state of Texas. And if you come after you tagged me, you will get a free limited edition trading card. Plus, if you show up at any one of my booths with that book after you tagged me and you make a purchase, you're going to get an original sketch card. And I'll draw any character you want on the sketch card from me live on the spot. So a lot of incentives for those of you out there. So if you want to connect the dots, if you're a true Doodie collector, you want to know Herman's story, here's an opportunity for you to find out what it's all about. So that's going to be published by another publisher on Free Comic Book Day. So that's pretty awesome. And once I have that, it is More Fun Comics. That's what it was. More Fun Comics is the publisher. And so they're doing it. So that's pretty dope. And I'm excited about that. So back to the events for the year. And then in July, I'll be doing Retro Comic Con, which is a retro expo. So that'll be your first appearance there. Texas Latino Comic Con. I'm waiting on confirmation. Bell County Comic Con in August. September, College Station and Denton Comic Art Expo. And then October, Bedrock City Comic Con and Big Texas Comic Con. So June is still pending, but so far a really packed lineup. I'll be doing a lot more book signings this year as well, because it's a big year for Doodie. Lots of celebrations, a lot of cool stuff. And for those of you collecting the Samurai limited edition cards, this year I'll be releasing 2 new cards. The only way to get it is by showing up at the conventions. And so for those of you who already collected the first 4, congratulations, you got the first 4 in the deck. And if you don't know what the Samurai cards are, this is marketing towards the Samurai story. Is a 4 issue mini series that I'm doing of Doodie. After Disney My Toilet ends, it kicks off with the Samurai story. So there's a series of trading cards that I release every year, 2 a year. And the only way to get them is at the shows. And it leads up to the launch of that. So lots happening there. And lots happening in the game, right? Diamond Distributors filed bankruptcy. What's up with that? We all knew that was coming. They just didn't. In my opinion, they fell victim to what Blockbuster has fallen victim to, right? It's the ultimate story. They didn't change with the times. They didn't adapt to what was happening. They didn't listen to the consumers, and they didn't listen to their customers, the retailers, right? They took them for granted, and they just alienated their base. And when you do that, you got people sneaking up from behind you, and they're going to take your market share, and that's what happened. So it's a tale that continues to recycle itself in every arena. I think we just don't learn from history. I think sometimes arrogance is what leads to failure, right? We think we're smarter, we're going to be different, we're better. and then those things happen, right? So I think everyone saw it coming. I wasn't surprised by it. That there's a lot of shows about Diamond and there and whatever it is. But what does that mean for the small guy? I don't know. I don't know because some of the other distributors that came into the game, they're not looking for, I guess, accounts that are what's the term I'm looking for? Risky. That's it. Risky, right? Because independents, they don't have the capital, or the marketing budget, and so a lot of these other distributors in the game are looking for um, long-term relationships, and they're looking for one-offs because they're just not stable financially. Not long ago, I was told you won't get very far if you can't be distributed to them. Yeah, that's what they said. That's what they all say, right? Now, there's always a way. As long as you have the passion, the drive, um, um, the commitment, and you understand that networking is critical to success in any game you go into, partnerships, relationships. You'll be surprised how many doors open just through relationships and consistency. You just can't. You have to be consistent, and you have to grow, and you have to adapt and change. Right? I think there's a book on adaptive leadership. Right? It's you have to be able to understand that in order to have long-term success, you have to be able to anticipate the change. You have to be able to adapt to the change. You have to be relatable, um, and likable. I think that's another thing. No one like Diamond, right? So more people are rooting for its demise than its success, which is unfortunate. But that's the bed that they created, right? So you got to lie in it. So that's the gist about Diamond. When George comes back, whenever that is, we will go into a deep dive with Diamond. I might just do a Crazy 10 or Less episode just to cover that because I did one when DC broke off with Diamond, and I did a full episode on that, and that one was pretty successful. So more to come on that. So without further ado, we do have our guest waiting, chomping at the bit. He's just waiting. He's like, let me in, coach. So let's bring in Elliot, and we're going to be talking about a whole lot of stuff. What's up, Elliot?
Hey, Sam. Good to see you. How you doing?
Good. I'm excited. I was like, I went to your website, seen the legal side of your life, and then I see the creative side of your life, and you got like this whole secret identity, like like Batman, right? So for everybody out there who was just getting to know who you are, who are you, and what do you do?
So my name's Elliot Mondry, as you can see from the screen. So you did get my name right, thankfully.
Awesome.
By day, I'm an attorney. By trade, I what you call a courtroom litigator. My career is basically in a courtroom. Everything from traffic tickets up to murder, everything in between, I handle. So every day, I'm pretty much in court arguing. If you need somebody to argue something, I'm the guy to do it. We have a small practice. It's me, my mom, my dad, and my sister. So it's a small family firm of attorneys, and we do criminal work, we do personal injury work, traffic, workers' compensation, and then I also do a little bit of intellectual property and work with comic book creators as well. So that's where the passion. That's where the passion comes in with the work, where you can mix your passion with your career. Everything is great. So then by day, I'm an attorney, and by night, I put on the bat cowl, and then I become a writer.
That's
so awesome. I write children's books, I write comic books. And on top of that, you see some medals. I also run marathons in my free time. So
wow.
I always stay busy.
Jack of all trades, right? It's like you probably came out of Elon Musk's lab or something, right? So
if only.
That's pretty fantastic. So let's take it back before we go forward. In the beginning, growing up as a kid, what were you into?
Oh, when I was a kid, so I used to go to San Diego Comic-Con with my uncle when I was younger, and that was my first kind of introduction into comic books. When I was younger, it was a lot of just superhero stuff, Batman, Superman, all of that. I was always kind of more into the indie stuff. The names escape me because when I was younger, my uncle would just kind of give me this giant, stack comics, and I didn't know what I was reading. I was just, this is fun, this is new. It's not like it's just superheroes. And I always seem to gravitate more towards the real, more real life stories, because obviously we all want to be Batman. We can't be Batman, So I always found myself more attracted to like these real life stories or just comedy stuff in general. I remember, I don't know, I might be dating myself a little bit. Do you remember the Adventures of Bat Boy way back when?
Wow. Yeah,
It was
going
this,
back. Yeah.
yeah. So he would give me copies of that. So I'd read a lot of, I'd read just whatever I could really get my hands on. And then obviously I'd read children's books because I didn't want to read actual books. Reading a novel, while it's awesome, is just, I don't have that attention span because I read enough for work.
Right.
So after reading legal documents, the last thing I want to do is come home and read a full-length novel. So it's nice to kind of let my brain turn off and just look at pictures. So comic books, children's books, not that I'm, reading every Dr. Seuss book known to man.
Right.
I have, but, it's something different that I don't get to do during the day for the work. So it's nice to kind of come home, turn my brain off, and just let the creative things already be there and just kind of be inspired by it.
Awesome. So what was there anything specific that inspired you to want to write?
So there were a few things. I'm going to kind of break it down into a little bit. One, I was I'm very open about this and our stories that we're telling. I was in therapy for a couple of years and I'm very open about mental health and, the importance of it and talking about what's going on. But prior to that, I was going through a lot of these issues and I didn't really know how to express myself. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how to properly talk about it. So
Right.
I would write. And, one of the comic book that I'm writing called You Never Know it deals with these issues I was having that I didn't know how to express.
Right.
And I figured if I could write it down, I could understand it better. And then eventually it went from writing about just these scenarios to, okay, there's a storyline here. What can I do to explore it? And then it went from just me writing about things that were similar to my own life to these characters taking on a life of their own. And with the children's book stuff, it's just, I always like children's books. I thought it'd be nice to just write a story where teaching lessons to others, because no matter our age, whether we're, a newborn, whether we're, in our 80s, if we're somewhere in between, the lessons in children's books speak to all ages. And it's something that it could be something simple as being friends with somebody. It could be simple as just being kind to others.
Right.
But there are stories that we hold no matter what age we are.
Right.
So in terms of like what inspired me, children's books, I always just read Dr. Seuss growing up, and I always thought it'd be great to have a story to tell, my children one day, or just other children, and just teach others about.
Right.
As far as comic books, I can tell the exact time that I knew that I wanted to write a comic book. My hometown show is C2E2.
Oh,
And
nice.
Yep. And I think that this was 2022, I believe, or 2023.
Right.
And I was wandering the show floor. I had a very loose concept of the comic book at the time. I had maybe a chapter written and a couple of notes for the rest of the story. And I hadn't really been as deep into the comic book scene as I had been when I was younger. And I saw a comic book by a writer named Ted Sikora called Tap Dance Killer. And that story was about a superstar villain performer clown who tap dances and joins the gang and all that. But the story of that had a overarching story with other characters and interconnecting storylines, and with Apama, Bloom, and other characters, Punchline. And to see stories come together this way in an interconnecting storyline, something kind of clicked. I'm like,
Right.
This is what comics can be. I didn't know it could be this expansive, because I haven't been in the comic scene for a little bit because I was so focused on law.
Right.
And I think I went home that night and started writing more about the story, thinking of more concepts and how I can make the story better and bigger. And then about a couple months later, a friend of mine, I was telling her about the story, from one of my friends from law school. And she said, if you're serious about this, I have an editor who I think you should speak with. And I ended up meeting my editor, Blair Schiff, who really pushed me. And I talked to her about the stories I wanted to write, what I was writing. And we went through them. She said, look, you have good stories. We need to expand on this. And she pushed me as a writer to kind of get them done. And about a year later, I had mostly a finished script. And I went to C2E2 the next year and met Alicia Madden, who's on the stream today, and as well another illustrator, John Singdalafat. And I ended up speaking with both of them at a panel. And I came into that panel completely unprepared, as one does. I didn't know about it until about a minute or two before it started, or about an hour before it started. I came in with a loose concept, a winged pitch for my stories. And apparently it went well, because we're about a year in and the children's book is fully illustrated. And Alicia is working with me hard every day in order to get the comic book done. And so all of this to say, it all started because I read a comic book at C2E2 and and then everything went from there. After everything just kind of kept going and going.
That is fantastic. Lou says I could do a mean time step, but I'm no villain. But what I find fascinating, right? Because you hit on something, right? Mental health it seems to be something that a lot of society is dealing with. But you found a way that is very therapeutic for you to be able to express and you found some sort of channel to hone in that energy, so to collect your thoughts, and not only that, but to do something you're passionate about. A lot of cases they struggle with finding that. How did you know to just channel your energy into the creative writing?
So I've always written, on holidays I'd write my girlfriend, or I still do write her very long cards. Even if she can't read my handwriting, it's still emotional. I still have some type of writing with it.
Right.
I write just random stories, and it was just, I knew that the route that I was going down wasn't healthy, and things that I was doing, things I was experiencing weren't good, productive, and they weren't going to get me anywhere. And I needed to do something to understand what I was doing. Yes, I was in therapy and it was helping, but I was just writing down my feelings, and I would write in a note on my iPhone scenarios that were happening. And then I would kind of look at it as a third person point of view, from a third person perspective. And that's where I created the main character in my story. I tried to kind of make myself as this character, but to look at it as an outsider, as opposed to from first person perspective. That concept of, what would you tell your friend if they were struggling? So I wrote it from that kind of perspective, and kind of based it on things that I was going through, but obviously dialed it up a bit for the story.
Right.
And, the quote intrusive thoughts we would have in our heads when, anxiety gets bad, we think, oh, people hate us. Oh,
yeah.
And, the world's coming to an end and it's all my fault, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
We've all unfortunately had those. So instead of keeping it inside, I was letting it out in a creative way.
Right.
And like Carrie says, at some point you can't ignore that drive to create. So this kind of drove me I had to do something that wasn't destructive, and that was writing.
Your approach to it allowed you an opportunity to take a balcony view and reflect, right? You're looking at the landscape and you're assessing the fact that you came up with the point of view of, if I had to give someone advice, you know what I mean? I think that is such a healthy approach, because what it does is it was basically, you were selfless in your approach, right? You're recognizing, well, I'm not the only one. This isn't new to me. I just happen to be one of many. If I turned the tides, and if I was giving advice on what would I say? I think that's an amazing approach. Was there an influence behind it? How did you come to that realization?
Not necessarily an influence. It was just, I was telling my story in a way that I wanted other people to know that they're not alone in this. It's easy to feel like we're caught up in, with society, with social media, all this stuff, everything's going, that we feel that I'm the only one going through this. I'm the only one suffering. And you are, at that moment, you are the one suffering. So that can't be ignored, but you're not alone in it. So I took that, I very clearly remember I'd be sitting in public or with other people. I'd be having a panic attack. And I feel like, they don't know what I'm going through. They don't know what's happening. You put on this kind of facade to try to hide what's going on. Yeah. And that's where I thought of the title, You Never Know. And, you never know what other people are going through.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of break that barrier. Even if your friend seems like they're doing well, your family member, whoever it is, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what they're going through. And, just to kind of break through and really talk with somebody. You know, you can, I remember people would ask, hey, Alec, how are you doing? I'd be like, I'm good. Or like, I'm fine. Or I'd have very short answers when really you're just not okay. And you need somebody to talk to. You need to talk about something, but you don't want to push people away. And it's that constant back and forth that you have with yourself. And that's what I want to try to explore in the story. So that way, one day when it gets published, which will ideally be sometime in the spring or fall this year for our first issue, that, you know, people can see this and relate to it. And you know, everyone has anxiety, and that manifests in different ways. And we're going to have 3 variant cover artists on top of our main cover that depict anxiety in different ways, because your anxiety and my anxiety could be completely different. And we're not doing variant covers for the sake of just, oh, here's another cover, look how cool this art is. But it's specifically so that way other people can relate to it. Because somebody might walk by a booth and see, I don't relate to that type of anxiety, but I know what that one feels like. And then just open up discussion, because at the end of the day, we just want to spread awareness for mental health. And, you know, that ideally somebody one day picks up this comic when they're not doing well, and they think, someone gets it, this helped me. And if we can help one person, then I think we did our job. And I think Alicia through her art is from what I'm seeing so far and what we've shown people, it's really impactful. And it's going to be it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I think at the end of the day, everybody can relate to it and identify in some way, and hopefully find some type of solace in the story that we're telling.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, which is what's fascinating about independent comics, or just an independent arena, because you're not forced to follow a set of guidelines. You get the self-expression can shine in the best ways. I mean, there's a guy who did a book on PTSD, and it related to a lot of soldiers and a lot of people who struggle with PTSD, right? Because they've had some really traumatic life experiences, and it just became this, you know, quick hit. And it's because you're speaking to someone understands me, right? And it's through it's through the most you know, I guess the most welcoming for me. I mean, there's nothing more. I mean, art transcends through life in every generation, and when you speak through people through art form, it's not as intrusive, right? And people are more receptive to it, especially when it's coming from firsthand experience, right? You're not talking about a subject that you studied. It's something I experienced myself, and I want to share my story. And I think that's what creates that relatability in the market, and it sets you up. You know, it's like you found a lane that works for you, which is fascinating.
Right. And I think the best work that I've read comes from, you know, I'll read something where I'll go to the con and I'll speak with the writer of it, and I'll say, what inspired you to write this? And they would tell me, oh, this is based on, you know, this thing that happened to me. And you can kind of get that feel. You know, obviously everyone loves Batman. Everyone loves Superman. We're not going to deny that. But it's those independent stories from somebody who actually went through that or put a part of themselves in that story. And, you know, I remember back in about 2019 or 2018, I just remember before COVID, the first C2E2 that I went to, there was a pitch that an artist gave me for her work. Her name's Emily Ree, and it was for a story called Anarchy Dreamers that she wrote. And I asked, what was this about, or what inspired this? And she tells me that it was about my friends who in high school who died when they were young, and what would happen if they came back and had another chance. And of all the pitches I've ever heard of, you know, I've heard countless pitches, I'm sure you have as well. That's the one that always stuck with me,
right?
Because she put herself in that story. And I think whenever a writer puts themselves into a story, no matter what it is, it's going to mean that much more.
Absolutely. So Anibal says, in my experience, the best creative products always have a bit of the creator's real life in it. Yeah. And it's, you know, it's one of those things where, like, For me, I'm a kid at heart. I've always been a kid at heart, and
Aren't we
Doodie's
all?
Doodie's an extension of me, right? So it's me as a kid and the crazy things and the wacky things I thought of as a kid and all the things I experienced, right? So I think when you when you when you in your art form are connected, almost like the Matrix,
Mm.
you know, the universe will respond in kind because it's a natural extension of you. You're speaking in your natural form, right? Because the art and the soul has connected and it's communicating to other souls, right? So this is me getting crazy and philosophical, but it's
We're
I
here
think
for it.
that I think that's what's fascinating about it, right? And when you have a passion, it resonates. But there's some things that you brought up. Coming into the game, you did a couple of things. You got an editor, which is most independents fail to understand the power of second eyes, right? Right.
Mhm.
So it's that in itself for me stood out. And I'm going to start there. What made you say, "Hey, I'm going to need an editor if I'm going to do this for real"?
So, like I said, I was speaking with my friend. She is she wrote her first novel. And we were talking back and forth, and I was telling her about the story that I'm writing. And she said, "You need an editor. I have someone I can have you speak with." And I knew enough to know that I didn't know enough. And I think that a lot of people have a problem with an editor because they want a yes man. They want someone who's going to say, "Oh, this is the best thing I've ever read. You're going to be a New York Times bestseller. You're going to get an Eisner Award out the gate. Yeah, this is going to be great." My editor read the first draft of You Never Know, and she said, "This is awful, but
That's awesome.
but you have good concepts, and we can
Right.
work with it."
Right.
And I think somebody who is not in a past lifetime, I used to play tennis professionally at like a very low professional level. I wasn't on television. I was on like the lowest touring level, but I got used to things being very difficult and hearing that you need to do better. So I don't take things personally. You have to look at it as a professional. So your work is not necessarily you, it's a part of you, but you have to look at it as separate and attached from you. You have to look at it neutrally. What can I do to make this a better product? What can I do to make this a better story? So at that point, I knew that this is the way to go. I know enough that this story is not as good as it can be and it needs to get better. What am I missing? So to everybody watching, if you're making your own stories, a good editor, not just any editor, a good editor is worth their weight in gold and is the difference between a solid story and a great story.
Right. Kerry says, "I was glad when I once saw an editor's note. I don't like this." Yeah.
Yep. I
It's one
remember
of those.
when
Yeah, it's one of those things you have to have. Number one, you said it, you have to have a thick skin and you have to remain neutral. I mean, I shared stories about when I got rejection letters. I mean, the worst and best rejection letter I received was not in a written form. It was Top Cow. It was and Mark Silvestri is the head of Top Cow. And what I received in the mail was the portfolio, Michael Turner's portfolio, printed pages of his artwork. Basically, he's saying if it doesn't look like this, don't send us anything, right? So that was message received loud and clear, right? And I was like, oh man, I suck, right? He didn't even want to type a letter. He didn't want to write a letter. He just sent me art, right? So, but I took it and I said, all right. I said, I'm not going to be a Michael Turner, but I need to find my lane. Where do I find my authentic voice in this game? And I started nurturing my craft and I found my lane, right? But I didn't, the worst thing you could do is shut down. What you got to do is just sit back, climb up to the balcony, take a full view of the landscape. One, do I want to do this? Right? Once you solve that, you say yes. Okay, what am I willing to do to secure this? Right? What do I need to learn? Right? And and you start add those questions up, and then you start building blocks towards the steps forward. So I think that's pretty fascinating. And it's kudos to you because coming out the gate, first thing, most people skip that step.
Yeah, that's something that I couldn't underestimate. I can't understate enough, or overstate either way.
Yes.
I'm just a writer, but you need somebody to have that perspective and to kind of give you that gut check, so to speak. And I remember, I think I spent a year writing the first draft. And when she said it's bad, but we can work with it, I had a giant sigh of relief. I'm like, oh, thank God. Now the work can actually start. And I felt so confident with that. And some people, obviously it hurts to hear it needs
Right.
work, but at least you know that you can go somewhere with it. And like you said, a lot of people might shut down. And I saw that as let's work, let's put in the work to get better. What can I do to become a better writer? And by the end of it, I wrote the full 9-issue series, and which is a little ambitious for your first comic, but nevertheless, I'm an ambitious guy, as you can tell. Right. And I became a better writer as a result. And, it's helped in every way to have Blair as my editor and just overseeing the whole process and kind of giving you that reality check along the way.
Right. Right. So now you got the editor, you write your story, and now you decide I'm going to go out there and I'm going to look for an artist. So and then you were, so let's start there. When I was creating, like when I wrote a book called Forbidden, Anibal's in the audience, and he was the artist that I couldn't draw Forbidden because I didn't have that style, right? And it was too much work for me, right, to draw in that style. So it was painful, right? It's like, this is not my natural art form. And I met Anibal, and he had, it was by chance, right? I was at a Star Wars convention. I had no business being there. I had a table there, and no business being there because I had a book called Cosmic Wars, and I thought, it's like Star Wars, to be no. And the best thing that happened is that we met Anibal, an artist. He was just on leave from deployment. He was in the military, and he was showing his portfolio, and that's how we connected. And I knew right away when I saw his art, I was like, oh man, this guy's he'll be perfect for my story. And I had my script, but when I was writing for another artist, I already knew what the characters looked like. I knew the character designs, the look and feel, all that stuff. Is that the same for you? And then how long was the process of you finding the artist that you connected with?
So for the comic book specifically, like I said, I was at a panel where it was like speed dating for artists and illustrators. And someone told me about it like an hour or two before. Wow. I didn't have a script with me. I didn't have anything with me. Wow. I had maybe some business cards, a sheet of paper, and I had my Google Drive on my cell phone.
That's awesome.
That was it. So, I met a couple of different artists, and I saw some styles that I liked. And then Alicia and I ended up meeting and talking for, I think, 7-minute speed dating, basically. And we didn't talk about comics right away. We talked about something that we bonded over, that we both experienced, that was traumatic for us. I think it was like a car accident.
Oh, wow.
And ironically, we'd both been in a very similar type of accident that affected us. And we talked about that, and we kind of bonded over that. And then she showed me her art, and I was impressed with it. But I remember that conversation more than I remember the art. And I met with a few other artists, but I think we followed up about a week, or like maybe that same week or something. And she showed me some more art that she didn't show me at the convention. And I talked with a couple of other artists, seeing their styles, and things were clicking, and I was liking some stuff. But I kept coming back to Alicia because she seemed to understand something that the other artists didn't understand and related to. And I said, look, I haven't seen your comic book style. I see these other styles, which they're good, but it wasn't what I was looking for. And I felt like there was something, I felt like she wasn't giving me what I knew she could do. So I said, look, I'll pay you for your time. Here's the issue for the first script. Here's the first script issue. The issue for the first script. There we go. Got there eventually. It's late in the day. We're tired. I haven't had caffeine. Yeah. And about 6 weeks go by, and I'm like, man, she's blowing me off. I haven't seen her heard anything. And she sends back what I call the audition piece. And what I saw blew my mind, because that's essentially exactly how I had envisioned the scene.
That's fantastic.
When I wrote it. And obviously there were a few tweaks here and there, but I said, that's the style. That's what I'm looking for. I knew she had the chops. I called all the other artists who I was talking to. I said, I found my artist. You're done. Don't worry. Thank you for your time. And I said, Lisa, yeah, you got the gig. When do we start? And I just was fortunate that we've hit it off so well. We've communicated really well, and working together, we've both become better writers and illustrators as a result. And just the growth that I've seen from her is amazing. And it's just a pleasure to work together and work on this project and, present it to the world.
That's fantastic. So your approach to writing your script, do you go as far as, page 1, 4 panels, panel 1, aerial view, blah, blah. Do you spell it out for the illustrator?
Yeah, so I was a journalism telecommunications major in college because I need to diversify my background a little bit, and I learned a lot of writing for television and script writing. So the way I'll write is ext day. I'll just set the scene for the page, and then it'll be general description of long shot, this, whatever. Show and describe the scene. If there's a character, you put all in caps, describe the character, and then if there's text or dialogue, then character names and the dialogue underneath. It almost looks like a movie script,
right?
And I try to be as detailed as I can, because the only way for the illustrator to know what to draw is if I'm as detailed and specific as I can be. If I just do page 1, character walks into building. Page 2, they enter building. Or panel 2, they enter building. Panel 3, dialogue. Hi, how are you? Like,
yeah,
we don't have any direction. We don't have any feeling.
They don't know the theme. They don't know. Yes.
So I just try to make it as detailed as I can.
So, given that approach, now what I learned is I'm just the same way. When I wrote my scripts, I was very detailed about everything, but Anibal was the first artist I worked with, and because he was an artist, his interpretation, sometimes he would change the camera angle, sometimes he would change the mood of the scenes or whatever, and it would blow my mind because he connected with the story and the characters. And so does you have that same relationship where the artist might have liberty to be able to adjust the scene based on what they see from their perspective, or is it strictly towards the script?
Oh, of course. Lisa's probably judging me right now. Elliot, we've talked about this. I know you better say the right thing. No, I told her that the script is a guideline. It's not like the Bible. It's there to give you a reference and an idea for what I'm looking for, but ultimately you have the creative license to do what you think is best for the story. Yeah. And I think that that's the most important thing. I don't think a writer has the ability to go and say, this is exactly what it has to be, unless it's like a very specific thing. But at the end of the day, the artist knows more than I do, than the writer knows. We can tell the story, but they have to show the story. Yeah. And they are who better to show the story than the one who's drawing it. Right.
Yes. And that's one of the things I took into consideration, because I worked with another artist who completed the series, because Forbidden it's almost it's like 160 pages. But I worked with another artist who finished the series, and just as much, he would send me the sketch, the rough layouts. Yep. And I'm like, there's nothing I can say here. This is fantastic, right? On occasion, specific armor or things like that, when it came to the uniforms or whatever, I gave feedback. But as far as layout, pacing, mood, expression, the drama, I was like, oh, yeah, do you, right? I mean, you're just complimenting what I've taken, and you just, elevate it to another level. So what's the process with the relationship? Do you get thumbnails first and you say, yes, this is great, go ahead and ink? And now, does she do all of it, inks, colors, or do you have a colorist for it? How's that process work?
No, she's doing all of it. I'm very thankful and grateful that she's able to do everything, because it gives us more creative control over the project. The way we do, we have the script, we read it, we discuss it, and she'll send the thumbnails. I'll approve the thumbnails, and we'll have like discussions about, okay, how does this look? How does this look? Maybe let's change this a little bit. Right. Then from there, pencils, I'll approve the pencils. We'll go to inks. I'll approve the inks. We go to coloring, and then I do a look through it for the coloring, and then it's approved. And the greenlit, and then move on to the next page. Nice. So it's pretty standard process, I'd say. But I give her most of the, she has the liberty to do whatever she wants with it, as long as she kind of more or less uses the script.
Right. Right. So, what is your short game and what's your long game for your projects?
So short game is just get it created. I've said time and time again that even if nobody purchased it, even if it never saw the light of day, even if it never got off of a convention floor, or even if no one bought it anywhere, I want to make a story that I'm proud of and that I would be glad to say that I did this or we did this. And so short term, just get it done. Ideally, put it on Kickstarter. If we get funded, great. If not, I've emotionally prepared to finance it myself to get it done because I believe in the project that much. Long term, I imagine us going to cons and showcasing and keeping up with the indie community and just trying to become an advocate for mental health and awareness in some way to bring more awareness to the issue, to have panels and things like that to talk about mental health and comic books,
Right.
and let other people know that these are stories that you can tell. These are stories you can talk about, and that it's not taboo anymore to talk about these things.
Yes. That's fantastic. So, now the story. Right? We have right now there's 16 people listening on through Facebook and YouTube. I don't even know. I don't see the counter for Twitch. But so we're streaming on all three platforms right now, and then we'll be streaming audioly on Spotify and all the audio streams the end of the week. So for people who are listening, what is the premise about? What can they expect from your story?
So You Never Know tells the story of Jason Banks, the kind of poster boy for success, wellness, and all of that. And on the outside, it seems like everything's okay. But as the story keeps going, you learn that something's wrong.
Right.
And over the course of 9 issues, you learn what's happening with him, why he's feeling this way. And you kind of learn how strong of a hold anxiety can have on somebody, despite what you see on the outside. So the short pitch is you never know what other people are going through behind closed doors. And ultimately, that's what the story will tell you. You're going to kind of learn with the characters what's going on. You're going to learn bit by bit what's happening. You're going to flash back to childhood. You're going to see these intense scenes. You might see things that disturb you. There will be trigger warnings on each issue for content, which I won't reveal at this time. But they can expect a story about friendship, about learning to love yourself, about trying to overcome obstacles, and how bad it can really get, because that's something that we don't discuss enough. And at the end of the day, the story surrounds Jason, his girlfriend Rachel, his best friend Chris, and their friend Sandra.
Right.
And everybody in this group serves a purpose, and everybody in the group is a reflection of people that I've had in my life who've been with me through all of this. So at the end of the day, as long as somebody can read the story and relate in some way, or relate to some of these characters and relate to what's going on, then I think that will have created something special.
Yeah, and I love the title because when you see a lot of we're in the world where everything is filmed, right? And your privacy is just gone, right? And so humanity seems to suffer for it because we become spectators of the most crazy things. And but when you see someone who has an outburst in society, we don't know what triggered it. What was their life experience? What caused them to that emotional state? And and most of the times it's a cry for help. And the only way to do it is to acting out because probably no one closest to them is even listening, right?
Mhm.
Or maybe they don't have that relationship. And we make assumptions, and unconscious bias comes into place, and there's all these things that happens, right? And we just make assumptions, and we think the worst case, right? That person's crazy, that person's unstable, blah blah blah. Which is why I think your title is so powerful, because it says it all, right? And if we just stop and pause and do what you did, right? You stood up, you said, I have to figure out how to face what I'm dealing with, right? And you found an art form, and you found a way not only to express yourself, but also to reflect. Then you took it a step further and you said, how do I share this, right? And for those who might not have an outlet, right? Or for those who feel like maybe no one understands me, right? so it was just this multi-stage approach that you took to this. I think it is so selfless of you. I think it's very ambitious of you. But I also think it's very honest, in its purest form, because I think anyone who's out there who's listening, because and especially in the art form, in the creative community, there's a lot of depression in the creative community. There's a lot of anxiety, a lot of frustration, because it's a tough, medium to break into, right?
Mhm.
And the majority are doing what we do, right? I'm a full-time executive, you're a full-time attorney. We and then by night we do what we do, right?
Yep.
And this is our form of expression. Um, uh, so for those out there, um, it takes courage. What advice, would you give for those who are struggling with finding a platform or some way to express themselves?
I would say that first and foremost, the most important thing to realize is that, and I say this as the tagline in the book, in the opening, that the story is dedicated to to individuals suffering in silence, and you're not alone and you're loved. So I think first and foremost, we have to realize that we are in fact loved, that we are not alone in this. Once you realize that, then you can kind of take that step back and be like, okay, what can I do to better myself? What is something that I can do to express myself? It can be exercise, it can be art, it can be dance, it can be video games, if that's what it takes. It can be something where you're not standing in your own way and can do something to progress forward at something. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to write a comic, you don't have to draw. I'm biased and I think that they're the best way to have an outlet. But some people might knit. Some people might, volunteer at animal shelters. Something where you're able to have some type of outlet and either give back in some way or better yourself in some way. Whatever that is, and something that you can look forward to doing, do that. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to go from 0 to 100, but just start small and do something small, and you can eventually build from there. So whatever that is for you, find it and do it.
Absolutely. So Anibal says, Elliot, I commend your courage. It's inspiring to see our field being utilized in such a way. It's truly art at its finest. And Alicia says, selfless, ambitious ambition. That's Elliot. Yeah, I think it is. I think it's very powerful. I think what you're doing is very noble, and it's. I think you won't have a difficult time finding an audience for your book. I'm already you got my attention. So kudos to you for doing this. And I can't wait to see the finished product. When you launch your Kickstarter, just hit us up. You can come back on the show. Alicia, you're welcome on the show. I'll share the link in the post if you want to ever come on the show and promote what you guys are doing. Where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Mondry Writes. That's MONDR, D as in David, RYWRITES. You can find me on Facebook at Elliot Mondry. If you want to talk about legal work, you can find me on my website, mondryandmondrylaw.com, and we can discuss issues from there. Obviously, I hope people don't have criminal issues, but if you do, I'll talk with you. And I also, work with comic book creators as well on contract issues and things like that if they need. So remember, you always need an attorney. I use attorneys for my work as well. Even though I write my own contracts, I have attorneys look it over. So you always need an attorney no matter what it is. But you can find me on Instagram at Mondry Writes and on Twitter at eMondry.
eMondry. That's fantastic. Fantastic. Do you have any plans on hitting the convention circuit?
I do. We did apply for C2E2 for this year. We won't have the book ready in time, but we'll at least have an ash can. And if we get in, I think we'll probably just use it to promote the story and kind of get the word out. We might plan on doing Cake later this year in Chicago, just local cons. But hopefully next year when we'll have 1 or 2 issues out, we can really get into the con circuit a little heavier and go from there.
Outstanding. And then when you launch your crowdfunding, when do you expect that to happen?
Right now thank you, Carrie. We're planning for a spring launch. Ideally, January. I'm trying to remember what months we're in. May, either May ideally, but we have a tentative deadline, but it'll be sometime like late spring that we'll be launching the first issue on Kickstarter.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Well, it was fascinating talking to you. You have, I mean, we could be talking forever, but you have such a wealth of experience and knowledge. And I think, your introduction into the game was playbook, it was textbook. I think you made all the right choices, you made all the right moves, and you're building that audience and that network, which is fantastic, and I can't wait to see the progression. What I love about what I do on this show, because we launched it in 2005, I've got to see so many creatives just flourish, right? And so I have a good feeling here. I think that you're going to be one of those that's just going to really find that lane and just going to take off. So kudos to you. And thank you for coming on the show. Any final words you want to share with the listeners out there?
I would like to leave everybody with this, that again, I'd reiterate that no matter what you're going through, no matter what it is, if you think you're alone, you're not. We are creating stories and to cater to those suffering in silence. And no matter what happens, you are not alone. You are loved. Every morning's a new day, and it will always get better. So don't let it get too bad before you let yourself get there. Everything will be okay. You just have to keep going.
Outstanding. Thank you, Elliot, for being on Catch the Craze.
And thank you for having me.
As Mikasa Sukasa, you're welcome back anytime. You have the link, so just let us know, and you guys are more than welcome back, and your whole team.
Appreciate it.
Yes, you guys want to come back as a group when you launch your campaign? Just let us know.
We definitely will, and can't wait for it. And then also can't wait for April 5th for the new issue. Everybody make sure to check it out, not just because it's 3 days before my birthday.
Oh wow, happy birthday. That's awesome.
Thank you. But everybody be sure to check out the April 5th, the new issue launching on Kickstarter. It's going to be amazing.
Well, thank you so much. You have a great evening.
You as well. Thank you, Sam.
You got it. And that was Elliot. Fantastic, guys. The link is in the summary. The link is in the chat. I mean, come on, man. Seriously, if you're out there and you're trying to break into the game, you're new to the game, textbook. He did all the right things, took all the right steps. Not only that, I mean, his product is an extension of himself, which is always the best. You look at a game, you have a balance of those who are just chasing trends, right? And right now the trend is nudity and risque stuff. Right, you have those who are chasing trends, or those who are capitalizing on what is the open market expired copyrights, open domain. Right, you have those who are capitalizing on pre-existing characters with big names, and they're just recreating it because now it's open domain. But then when you find original stories, which is the heart of the game. Right, it is the heart of society. Right, it's everyone's looking to connect with something. In society, we're always looking to relate to something. We want to be part of something, right? Or we want to be part of a community that speaks to us, that relates to us, right? And so when you have creatives that are going out there and they are just expressing their unique perspective on life through firsthand experiences, there's nothing more pure than that. And I think that's fantastic. And public domain. I said open domain. What's the matter with me? What's the matter with you, Sam? Right? I think that's fantastic. And so, for all you guys out and gals out there, if you're getting into the game, do your research, get yourself an editor, get second eyes on it. That whole speed dating pitch game, it gives a lot of people anxiety. To be able to sit there and get feedback and get critiqued, and but if you're gonna break into this, I mean, Elliot said it best, right? It's like you have to remove yourself, you have to remain impartial, you have to just be objective, right? And take in, because there's truth to any form of feedback. There's a percentage of that connects with you, which is why some people don't want to hear it, because we don't want to be flawed, but the reality is we all are, right? And that's what makes us unique, right? Because no one's perfect, and we're always striving for greatness, but it's not attainable. But at least it keeps us focused on growth, And I think that's the biggest thing, right? And it's whatever you choose to do. If you're trying to break into this game, whatever art form, whatever road you choose, remember that you can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. And yes, the truth hurts. And you can't do it alone. And you need to build a network, and you need to be humble, and you need to be willing to learn from others, and you need to be okay with having a few missteps along the way. We all make mistakes, but I think if you stay focused and you stay real and honest, you're ahead of the curve. But do your homework. Do your homework. And this is a perfect example of someone who, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, I mean, it's a family business, right? And it's strength in numbers, right? Not only that, but he's also attorney, right? And it requires a lot of research and due diligence, and crossing your T's and dotting your I's and verifying, right? And because you're representing others, and you want to make sure that you do your best. You put your best foot forward. You never want to be ill prepared, right? So I think that's an advantage, a home court advantage that just spills into the art form, which is fantastic. So, Doodie, come on. If you haven't subscribed to the show, hit that subscribe button. If you haven't hit that like button, hit the thumbs up. Let the algorithms work in our favor. Remember, we're the longest running independent comic book podcast in the game, founded in 2005. Catch the Craze podcast. We are creators representing creators of the game, and we do this show to give the silent majority a voice, right? Like Elliot, right? Breaking into the game and introducing him to our listeners, right? But when we grow, the independent community grows. So we need all of you to subscribe. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or any of these other iHeartRadio or whatever, hit that like button, leave a comment. We need those algorithms to work in our favor. But if you haven't done so already, I would love for you to sign up for the launch of There's an Alien in My Toilet. Hit that QR code right there. And we launch on Kickstarter April 5th. And it's the 20-year anniversary of Doodie. And it's fantastic. And it's going to be a hoot, this Kickstarter. It's going to be so much fun. I was there from the beginning. Yes, you were. And so this campaign is different from every other campaign because there are 3 variant covers, right? This is one of the covers, right? And but each cover, that book will have a different ending. So you're not getting just a different cover of Doodie. Here's another cover. Here's one of the other covers. You're not just getting a different cover of There's an Alien in My Toilet. You're getting a different ending to the story. It's the first time I've ever done something like this. I'm really pushing myself to the limits. I'm drawing different endings, and I've written different endings, which is fantastic. And I'm trying to make it enticing for you, right? For all you collectors out there. Let's make the Doodie launch a reunion. Yeah, that'll be fantastic. So yes, so join me April 5th for the launch of This and In My Toilet. I'm trying to get over 100 people to sign up for this launch. I want to make it the biggest batch ever. This is issue number 7. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. And we're celebrating the 20-year anniversary. More bang for your buck. Yes. It's the 20-year anniversary. And again, if you're an artist out there, and you want to celebrate with us this year, send us your best rendition of There's an Alien in My Toilet of Doodie, and to be featured in the Art of Doodie art book, which launches in the fall. It's a 200-page art book, and I'm picking 20 in honor of the 20th anniversary. 20 renditions of Doodie. Your best version will be featured in that book. But you have to send it by April 5th, and you send it to contact@catchthecraze.com. Send it to contact@catchthecraze.com. That's with a D-A, catch the craze, not a T-H-E. And I'd love to get you featured in there. So all artists that are featured in the book will have a QR code. So you would just have to send me a QR code that'll send everybody directly to your websites or to your social media handles, whatever it is, with your name. But you get to celebrate There's an Alien in My Toilet with me at that time. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you next month at Texoma Comic Con. I'll be there with George. George is flying in from the East Coast, and we're going to be at Texoma Comic Con. We're going to be having fun again. It's going to be a hoot, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you all for watching this tonight. Thank you, everybody in the audience who was here. Thank you, Alicia and Carrie and Lou and Anibal and Aurelis and Radasco, and I mean everybody who is here and everybody on Facebook and on Twitch. I don't see your names, but thank you all for watching us tonight, and I'll see you next week. With that said, I'm Sam the Crazy Man Vera, and we are out. It's just easy. It's not.
Crazy. Acquiesce.
No, I was talking about my friend Acquiesce. Say my name, right? This is what you were thinking? Oh, he described me. He said, I'm the what?
Catch the craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze. To Catch the Craze. You are listening to Catch the Craze on Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze.
Candy girl.